So what I've brought here with me today, or now, for the third time, is two topics. One topic is how can I actually leverage generative AI within business flows? So it's a little bit like about what Dan this morning was mentioning as well. People who are like paying attention, they know he was talking about how we can bring AI into business flows, into processes and all these things. And that is something I wanted to pick up now, as well as a more specific topic. It's about like how you can implement or integrate custom machine learning models from your local environments into Qlik Sense. Yeah, and in specific, I'm talking about time series problems. Yeah, that's what we'll do. If there's any questions, don't hesitate. Let's talk about it. Yeah, but that's kind of like the agenda, yeah, for this session. So, first thing, generative AI we can connect in many different ways, right? So we saw Qlik Answers today. We saw Qlik Sense with Bedrock connected and all these things. And what we are leveraging there is essentially connectors to generative AI environments, just like AWS Bedrock, Azure OpenAI services, and stuff like this. So for people who don't know what that is, it's essentially like copies of these large language models which are hosted in your cloud environment, right? So, yeah, you can just use them essentially in a safe way because it's in your cloud environment. So no one trains models with your data or anything like that. And in the end, it's just like REST API calls we can do. One way is like our analytics connection. Yeah, so that's here on the left side. It's like in the Qlik Sense front end. We saw that briefly in the morning in the product keynote, where we can like pass our data from a Qlik Sense app to like into the prompt, right, as contextual relevant information, and then ask, hey, can you summarize this or something like that? Yeah, so that is the one part, and the other part is, and that is going more into this like world of automating things and more into the direction of, yeah, working within the process, right? Like within business processes. So what we leverage here is like Qlik application automation. It's an acquisition from a company called Blender.io. It's like a couple of years ago, and it's fully integrated into the Qlik cloud. Yeah. And so for what it's good is essentially you can have like something happen, for example, in your Qlik Sense app, someone does a selection, or I don't know, there's a certain pattern or whatever, and up on this pattern or up on like an action a user is taking, you can automate a process with that. Yeah, so, and I've brought one example with me, and this example is like an actual customer use case. So someone who is a manufacturing company, but they're selling obviously also yeah, goods, and it's anonymized here, the company. Yeah, so to just like replay this this concept or this use case, leverage just like general kind of like Amazon review information. Yeah, so we see here, and that is so. Essentially, the mission was like this company sells like vacuum cleaners and stuff like that, and they had like thousands, hundreds of thousands of reviews from customers. And well, like before GenAI, we had like really limited ability to work with this data. So what we could do maybe is like a semantic analysis or something, or yeah, essentially just like, hey, this customer likes you or he does not like you, yeah, kind of. And so, but with generative AI, we can really elevate this kind of use case because, as we've seen today many times, these large language models, they can deal with text data pretty well, right? So we can give them like certain tasks. We can prompt it, hey, imagine you are a customer support agent and answer based in this style and all these things. And let me just yeah, let me just open this here. So what you also can do is, and we saw that today morning as well in the product keynote a little bit, but I wanted to show that a little in more detail because it's really powerful, I feel like. So what we can do now with our unstructured data like text, we can like essentially use like a property from these large language models have, because they can also not just like deal with like text, they can also deal with JSON format and stuff like that. So essentially what we can do is we can generate structure with a large language model. Yeah, so what we could do is, for example, hey, imagine you are a customer service agent and you have to evaluate this kind of review. So please, like, if it's like, so we sell clothes here, yeah. So if it's like loose or not fitting or anything like that, then return me like a no or yes, and you can essentially write this whole kind of like instruction yourself. And with application automation in the middle, which has like all these connectors like AWS Bedrock and OpenAI and all these things, you can basically enhance your workflows with GenAI, yeah. So, and that is what we are doing in this demo now. And of course, it's not just about like automating this process, but you can also, of course, store it in whenever in like your database or in your Salesforce or whatever, yeah. So, and once we're done with that, I mean, the logical next step would be, hey, okay, now we have a bad kind of like review, so maybe we want to have like the customer service agent who is maybe in a Qlik Sense app to answer this kind of like review. And you could like have like a suggestion from a large language model here, which you could customize, confirm, so you would save time as well. And maybe write this back into the CRM system and get like your customer informed, yeah? So. But without further ado, I would say we jump into the demo. That looks good. So, yeah, everyone can see that, perfect. So what I've prepared here is like a sales analysis, yeah. So it leverages like all these like nice new kind of objects, like the layout container and stuff like this. So we see this here, where we have like many different like objects kind of like arranged pixel perfect in one block, yeah. So this is like, for example, here this revenue tile. We have like also like more kind of like AI like built in Qlik analytics, right? So what we have here, for example, is like a kind of like a natural language object, which where you can pass in like a dimension or a measure or something like that. And it gives you like a rundown, right? And that is interactive as well as like everything is, right? So I could, for example, say here, I don't know, select like a customer, and it would give me also like this breakdown as well, right? So that's like one little thing, like which is like maybe nice if you are not as data literate. So next thing I wanted to show is what we can do with these like reviews, right? So let me jump here to this. I hope that's the right sheet. Yeah, looks like it. So we have here like all our reviews, yeah, with the revenue and the rating. And if we now select like a single review, we can kind of like break it a little down and have a look at it and see, hey, so someone is like apparently not so happy, visually striking, but delivery failed. So seems like there might be like a shipping problem, yeah. And so one thing what I could do now is, yeah, so I could just like generate a nice answer. So I have here my prompt already filled out. So could hit this button here, have my response, right? So that is really like an interactive kind of way how you can implement GenAI, and that's actually super easy to set this up. And on the other way, if we now zoom out a little bit and look at all the reviews, we see after processing our reviews, like actually like certain things, you know, like which gives us some insights about, okay, maybe there's slow shipping seems to be a problem as well, but we are basically having like a good style, good material, good quality, that's all fine. But maybe we could investigate this further, right? Like about slow shipping. So it could be one indicator. And yeah, so in the end, like how this is being generated is, as mentioned, with Qlik application automation. So I have here like an automation workflow, yeah, and this application automation, for everyone who doesn't know it, it's essentially like you have this Canva in the middle where you have like all these like certain different blocks. You have like all the connectors here on the side. There's like really almost anything you can imagine. And then you can like build your processes here, yeah. So, and what I've built here is, for example, so we do first like a query against Snowflake, so we get the reviews and all these things. And once we have these reviews, we have here like a blog, like an OpenAI blog, where we do like a raw API request. And here's our request body. It's a little tiny to see, so bear with me and let me open here the kind of like body I've pasted in here. And that is essentially like this implementation, what we, out of the instruction in the end, what we give within our API requests. Yeah, so we have here like the model specified, we have the system defined, okay, so you're a helpful assistant that extracts information from customer reviews, and here's like the information from the review and all these things. And then if we scroll down a little further, it gets a little more interesting. So what we have here is like then like a first kind of like object where we say, okay, is the article fitting, too long, baggy, loose, or big? If yes, then it should be 1. If not, it should be 0. Sounds super simple. Actually, it is simple, but it performs actually quite good, and gives us at least like a better way to interact with our unstructured data, like text and like customer reviews and stuff like this. I can spin this even further and stuff like that. So other customers are using this, for example, for analyzing social media campaigns, right? Where you have like a campaign maybe on Twitter or something, or on LinkedIn or something, and you are actually able to really drive like value from your comments, for example, yeah? Yeah, that's really how customers are using this. And once you've put this in, you can, yeah, do essentially anything you want, right? Like what we are doing is like, we're just inserting the classifications and stuff like that. And in the end, store it, and yeah, and that's it. And then we have all this information and we can actually build this kind of application, right? So, yeah, that's the first thing I wanted to show. And the next thing, the other thing, is like how we can integrate machine learning models from from our local environments or from machine learning operations platform. So, is like everyone aware of like what time series problems is? Because if not, then I'll just give like a brief overview, because they're some sort, like they're a little specific, yeah? So typically like machine learning models, they are being trained on a training data set, and this training data set mostly is historical data, and then we have like one variable, which is basically the target which we want to predict, right? And there can be anything in there. But for time series kind of like problems, it has like specific characteristics, yeah? So for example, with proper time series data, you have always like kind of like the same like distance. So you have, most of the time you have like a time, yeah, or like a date field or something like this. And it's really based on always being the same kind of like time difference, right? So for example, daily, hourly, per minute, or yeah, so, but you can't have like a minute or then a 2-minute timestamp, then a 3-minute timestamp, then an hour. That wouldn't work. So one thing is important, it's always like equal kind of timestamps. And so I've talked in the morning about AutoML, where you can train your custom machine learning models. But one thing we don't have natively built in there yet is like time series algorithms, yeah, like Facebook Profit or like an ARIMA model or something like that. And so it doesn't mean that you can't use AutoML for time series problems, but you had to basically build a little bit of a workaround. So you could basically engineer like new features for your machine learning model, which contains then, hey, so this is like how it looked like a week ago. This is how it looked like a month ago, or whatever is relevant. So, but you had to engineer essentially like these kind of like features yourself. So. And that will change in the future. So like there's one roadmap item I'm really excited about, and that is like time series forecasting support from AutoML. And because of this, I thought it would be great to kind of like dig a little deeper there, set the state a little bit for these kind of problems. Yeah. And so what I have done is like I just created like a little Python application which basically exposes a REST API with fast API. So I'll go in there for a sec. So everyone who is like not familiar with Python, I hope, can we see that? Or should I zoom in a little bit? Never mind. Okay, I hope everyone can see it. It's not zooming in. Anyway, it's a really straightforward kind of like script. It's like, you know, we, as mentioned, we leverage like fast API to have like a REST API, and we really have like just like one kind of like method which we are using. Yeah. So in the end, we are having like this predict like method. Yeah. So like a post kind of like request. And what we're doing here is essentially we pass in the data and train like a time series model. We leverage Facebook Profit here for this one, and we do the classic model fit, and return in the end like the forecast. Yeah, so and what I wanted to show now is just like how we can basically use this model now, which is like on my machine, right? Like it's like a local host 8080. How I can basically connect this to my Qlik Sense app. Yeah. And so one thing I have to do for that is like make my my API kind of like available to the internet. Yeah. So that's one thing which has to be given. Yeah. So I work here with a reverse proxy to kind of like set the stage for this. And yeah, so, but once this is done, you can basically leverage our, let me jump in here into Qlik. Yeah, so what you can do is like you have like your advanced analytics connection you can leverage for this, right? So it's based on the server-side extension. We have also on client managed, works also with client managed, this whole thing, but it's just a little different, a little more complicated than with the cloud. But in the end, it's just like creating, the new connection here. Analytics connection. Here, essentially, what you're doing is you're just like defining your URL, right? So, in this case, let me see here. That's my my endpoint in the end, right? My reverse proxy, which points to my machine, and now I can just like essentially give like my method I want to use, right? Like so, I want to leverage the predict function. And once this is done, I can, in the end, go in here and give my table a name, test, can hit the connection, test the connection, close, and basically I could create this now. I have this already created, so we won't create this. But yeah, so this is like how easy it is to connect this, right? And then of course, like in the script, in the Qlik script, what you would need to do is you need to call like this connection, yeah, via script eval function. And so what we are passing in here essentially is our endpoint, right, our connection name, and the data we want to send there. Yeah, so in this case, we have an order table. And we pass this in here and send this essentially to our endpoint. And once this is done, it looks kind of like this. Bear with me for a sec. Yeah, perfect. That's the demo god. I see. One second. Yeah, there we go. Yeah, so what we get back then is something where we have like, you know, like that's basically all like properties from the model itself, right? So we get a trend and we get some other statistical measures and stuff like this. So we could basically do like anything what like the algorithm would allow us, right? So we could go into our Python application back and kind of like define here like seasonality effects or yeah, you know, like certain behavior which we want to kind of like model, and that would be just like the same way, and we could just integrate it here. Yeah, so of course, like this is one way to do that in the load script, right? So that is one way. The other way is you can also do that in the front end. Yeah, so you can also call this endpoint in the front end. It's very similar to how AutoML does it, right? Like we saw this like kind of like scenario simulation in the morning, right? In the product keynote where we saw I can like manipulate like certain parameters, and then I get a prediction on the fly back, right? So it's basically the same technical infrastructure we are using. And if we go in here, so, and that is really the last step before I release all of you to the bar, is here in our revenue. So I have like this expression here where in the end call like the same function, and this is being evaluated all the time whenever I select or filter something. Yeah, yeah, I think that's it from my side. So make it short and crisp. I think I give 10 extra minutes back, and yeah, happy to take any questions if they're not too hard for me. So, but if not, that's it. Thank you. Yeah. To AutoML. Yeah. Do you want to maybe ask the question in the microphone so everyone hears it?
Yeah, so the question is, what is the size of the data set that can be sent to AutoML?
So in this case here, I don't leverage AutoML at all. So right now it's like a custom kind of like program. But so you ask like a rate limit or something, right? Like how, like when would the endpoint time out or something? Like if I would penetrate it or something like this, or what do you mean?
The question comes from when we tested this functionality, there was a limit of 100,000 of rows for data model training.
Yeah, so that is like, yeah, AutoML is packaged. So as mentioned, this is not AutoML, but it leverages like to connect to the model, the same kind of infrastructure. But AutoML itself is like kind of like licensed into tiers. And these tiers, they have like certain metrics, like for example, the training dataset size, right? So for example, you have like the premium tier, I think you have like 10 million cells or something. And in the free tier, you have like less kind of like training dataset size, I would call it, right? And so it really, in the end, depends on what kind of like license you have for AutoML. Obviously, the bigger the tier, the more data you can work with, right? So that's one thing. I think it starts with this like 100K, right? I think that's the free tier. So that's the basically you can like it's really much like a freemium kind of like approach where you can test it out a little bit, but it's very limited, you know. So you can't use that in production because it's not meant to be used in production. That's just like a, hey, you can test it out and that's it. You also don't get like a real API like access in the free version. You have to buy a tier for that. Yeah. So, but once you've bought a tier, you have like I think. Now I would have to really look it up. Like I think it's like 1 million or something like this cells to train a model, and you have real-time API access and all these things. Yeah, I hope that answers the question a little bit. Yeah. Good. Okay. Any more questions? Can we close it then? Can I open the bar Like a real, yeah? Okay, so the bar is open. Yay. Thank you.